Good morning, everybody. It's the 15th of January today. Thought I'd give you an update as to how things are going for me during dry January. One thing I've noticed, actually, looking back at my videos, is I always seem to be in the kitchen. The kitchen is the centre of most homes. It is in my home, especially as I do all the cooking, which has become actually quite an important part of my journey in terms of not drinking. It's been a sort of as I try to build my repertoire, it's become an area to focus on rather than sitting there having a few beers. So maybe I'll make set up a different channel, or even talk about it on this video going forward, on this channel rather. My position is that obviously we've gone through Christmas, which probably presented a bit more of a challenge than normal days and circumstances, but I got through that relatively easily. And we're now into January, dry January, as I said. I intend to not drink during January, and part of the reason for that is I'm into my 5th month. I won't have had a drink for 6 months. I think it's around the 4th of February. I don't actually know, as I've said to you previously, I don't actually know what date I gave up on, which you think would be hard sort of wired into my brain, but I know it was a Friday, that's all I know. But I think it was around the 4th of August, so it's going to be about 6 months in, a couple of weeks' time. And as I reflect back on that, and part of this video is to do exactly that. I'm somewhat surprised, if I'm honest. I'm somewhat surprised that I've got to this point. I didn't believe I would. In fact, I think I've said to you before, when the Friday I decided to give up, I didn't think I'd even get past Friday evening, let alone to this point. So in a sense, I have a little bit of satisfaction and pride that I haven't taken any alcohol for the best part of 6 months. And I intend to continue that for the time being. Moving forward, and I think this is probably something that a lot of people on this journey experience, but I'd love to hear your views as to whether you have experienced it. Is it gets to the point where you sort of think, well, when you get to the finishing line, whenever and whatever that may be, does that mean you just never drink again, or do you try and become a moderate drinker? And this has been something that's been on my mind really consistently. Could I be a moderate drinker? Could I be the sort of person that maybe at Christmas just had a couple of glasses of wine and enjoyed those, but didn't partake anymore? That's certainly not my previous experience. I would have been there with the best of them, having a decent drink. So I'm doubtful I can achieve that, but it would be nice on one hand to be able to do that, but on the other hand, I think, well, why? What's nice about it? What does alcohol really give you? Obviously, it does give you things like a change of state of mind, and I know many people, I certainly was one of them, would argue that it gives you confidence and it de-stresses you and these types of things. Through my experience of abstinence, I don't think it does do any of those things. I think it's a complete smokescreen. It's a sort of clandestine substance that convince you, not in itself, but through peer pressure, through the media, through the conditioning you've probably had for years, that you associate positive things from alcohol that actually aren't real. So going back to my point, should I have a drink and try and be a moderate drinker? There's a question mark as to why would you be a drinker at all, let alone a moderate one. And the longer it goes on, the more I enjoy this status of no, that's the wrong word, status. The more I enjoy this feeling of not drinking. I mean, for example, last night my son came over to visit us, and we had a bit of food together. He's not a big drinker, surprisingly, because I was. But as my daughter, who didn't visit us last night, she's not really a big drinker, surprisingly, bearing in mind the influences they had around them. But he came over, and strangely enough, he bought a small 4-pack of alcohol-free beers. I think for himself rather than me, but we both had a couple of beers, very pleasant, had a bit of food. And, I drove him back to where he lives. Now, I don't remember, well, in my previous world, there's no way I'd be doing that because I would have already had a few beers and it would have had to be my wife. So it was quite satisfying to be able to do that. And that's a new experience for me, as I mentioned. But it's one of the things I enjoy is I've not got the shackle, and I've not got the consideration of alcohol. I don't have to think about its impact on what I'm doing. So, and that's a new experience that I find quite satisfying. Don't get me wrong, look, I could easily have a drink this evening. And I'm sure that I would enjoy it because I think my brain is still wired to associating alcohol with some form of enjoyment and pleasure. That may never change. And if that's the case, and I don't ever drink, or I can't get to a point where I can moderately drink, I'm going to have to deal with it. But so far, it's not really been that difficult. That sounds rather almost arrogant. It's not meant to be. That's just the way it's worked for me. I'm sure other people struggle a lot more. I don't know why I'm able to do that, because frankly, when I look at my life in terms of setting a goal and achieving it, I'm often an abject failure. I don't follow through. Why I've followed through on this occasion, I don't know. I can't tell you, but I have. And really, I'm more concerned about the outcome as to the why. So I will continue, as I said earlier, through dry January and then see where we're at 6 months. Whether I'll be ready at 6 months to have this challenge of maybe having a couple of glasses and see if I could then abstain, I'm not sure. My wife thinks I won't be ready. She may well be right. And I may never even get to the point where I even do that. So there are lots of things sort of floating around in my head about it. And I think the reason I'm asking myself about should I become a moderate drinker is because I'm still wired to associating those benefits that I see, probably in my subconscious mind, to alcohol. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure if I did take a drink, all of a sudden my brain would I'd love to be able to, monitor my brain activity, because I'm sure if I took some alcohol, my brain would light up and it would say, "Oh God, alcohol's back in his life. Let's press the pleasure button. Let's press all the buttons that we've sent to him before that we associate with alcohol." But it's something that I'm not sure what's going to happen, if I'm totally honest right now. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to carry on. For all of you out there, if this video, or frankly any of the other wonderful videos that are out there that help me on the journey, help you, or just makes you a little curious, there is a whole world out there. There's a whole world of abstinence that I think is growing. You've only got to look at the amount of non-alcoholic products that are out there these days. They're definitely growing. Even in the short term I've been not drinking, albeit it may be that I wasn't aware of them before, but it seems to me they're growing. And I think it's a wonderful thing, because I think alcohol does have a place in society. I'm not a don't drink anything, you should never touch the stuff. I think it does, but I think it has to be respected, and it has to be a bit like I think the French do in particular, and a lot of Europeans do actually. Yes, they drink, but it's not excessive. I mean, they'll have a couple of glasses of wine with their meal. Maybe that's it. Now, I know Britain perhaps doesn't have that culture, and there are other parts of the world in Europe that don't have that culture. They have more of a drinking culture. But I think as an individual, you have to make that decision. I think you can have a drink, and I think you can have a drink modestly. my problem personally, and I think for a lot of people who make these videos, and it wasn't modesty, there was no sort of moderation button. It was just full on, or well, there wasn't an off even. It was just full on. So if this video, as I said, makes you a bit sober curious, please investigate. There's loads of stuff out there. All of it doesn't cost any money. Go and immerse yourself in it. Go and see all sorts of different people and all sorts of different documentaries and YouTubes out there and different people. I wouldn't pay for anything right now. You may need that, but right now I would just focus on getting as much information as you can for free, because I think it just might help you. In the meantime, you may just want to put the drink down. We'll speak again soon.